Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Karin Helmstedt.
Greetings from the German capital and welcome to our highlights from the past week, which this time around happened to include the following stories. Digital drawings. Spaniard Sergio Albiac creates portraits using computer data. Trivia test. Why Germans love to play the game app Quizduell. And Sculpture Central, a Berlin company, creates giant monuments for artists. Well, in the wake of the recent NSA scandals, concerns have been rife regarding personalized and computer traffic information being collected around the world. In fact, one of the big themes at the world's biggest trade fair for information technology, that was the CeBIT in Hanover just last week, was big data and how to handle it. But for some artists, at least, big data can also spell a big bonus. And we went to Barcelona to see why.
These portraits of real people all have one thing in common. They reveal more than just a face. They're a collage of that individual's personal data. The faces have been generated by computer programs, written by a Spanish artist.
For me, the computer is the same as a brush. When you paint a picture, critics don't say, "You didn't paint the picture, the brush did." So it's the same thing. I write a program, and the program is a tool that creates the picture.
The program generates a portrait by simulating Sergio Albiac's brushwork as it combines digital information about a person with the person's image. Albiac makes final adjustments by hand.
The fascinating thing for me is to integrate information that has until now been ignored by the art world, such as a person's heartbeat, and turn that into art. The possibilities are amazing.
For his Stardust project, Albiac came up with a software process that generates portraits in the form of collages of images from the Hubble Space Telescope. Content is Queen combined internet videos to construct an image of Queen Elizabeth II. And another project mixed real-time data about a person's driving style, such as speed and fuel consumption, with an image of that person's face. The eclectic approach comes naturally to Barcelona-based 45-year-old Albiac. In 2009, he decided to make a living by combining his previous career as a computer programmer with his art studies.
Working with technology is incredibly creative. Writing a program is the same as writing poetry or drawing a portrait. Programming is about finding solutions, and in doing so, you're being very creative.
We met Sergio Albiac as he was testing his new smartphone app with a friend. It can send your picture and your personal data to the artist, who generates a unique portrait. It all begins with a selfie. The program can collect pulse rates, voice samples, and much more.
The app captures a person's life experiences. For example, it records sounds or words from conversations, and of course video.
Albiac's idea is to use all that information to synthesize an image of a special day or journey, and reflect a certain amount of connected personal data. People leave clear data trails across the internet, even if they're unaware they're doing so. Their locations, their activities on social networks. Everyone amasses large amounts of personalized data. More and more artists are seizing on this data as a source of creativity. José Luis de Vicente is a specialist in digital culture, art and technology.
Artists are exploring collective emotions, trying to understand how we all feel in one particular instant. They want to understand how so many individuals interact online and collectively create greater movements. Other artists are using the data to shed light on a world that's out there, and in many ways is incomprehensible to us.
In 2012, Italian artist Paolo Cirio analysed photos from Google Street View. He then pasted life-size images of people onto the spots where they'd been caught unaware and without permission by Google's cameras. In 2013, German artist Katharina Sieverding combined 100,000 images collected by the US space agency NASA to digitally project a blue sun. What look like microscopic images are in fact a 3D visualization of a computer virus by Romanian artist Alex Dragulescu. His latest project analyzes online communities to create maps of social network behavior. Meanwhile, Sergio Albiac is generating a program from data gleaned by his app. The speed and detail of the brushwork are influenced by real-life data input, such as pulse rate.
My vision is to turn this project into a completely autonomous system that can create art long after I'm gone.
Right now, though, Sergio Albiac sometimes still has to rely on the analog world, especially when it comes to enjoying his art on paper.
And when they're not worrying who might be getting hold of their personal data, the digital generation spends much of its time playing quiz apps. Now, one of the most popular is Quiz Duell, or Quiz Clash in English, and designed for smartphones or tablets. It's already available in 13 countries and has been downloaded millions of times. The app was developed by a trio from Sweden, and as its popularity rages on here in Germany, quite literally, we thought we'd find out why Germans are so obsessed with the quiz show format.
This is one app that gets people going. Quiz Duel is a social trivia game that you can play with one other person or with a group. Now, a Hamburg ad agency has launched Germany's first championship. They're looking to crown Germany's cleverest ad agency. So now people are even playing at work.
It's an entertaining way to pass the time. You test your knowledge and learn a bit along the way. I think it's delightful.
It's exciting and even addictive. It's fun to see if you know more than your friends.
I'm one of the top 2 million players, number 1,912,782 to be precise.
Not bad when you consider that there are about 6 million active players in Germany. Getting started is easy. Just download the app and find an opponent. Each round has 3 categories, and there are 21 categories in all. For every question, there are 4 possible answers, but the clock is ticking, so you have to think fast. In the end, the person with the most correct answers wins. Now over to Stockholm, Sweden, where the app's inventors all live. They're around 30 years old and have been friends since they were children. Robert Vilstedt, Kalle Landin and his brother Ola are all fans of social games and also enjoy computer programming. The app is no flash in the pan. The developers spent 2 years trying out successful smartphone games and then set to work on their own.
It was in 2011. There was a really popular social game that was based on the Scrabble principle, a word game. And we realized the strength in that kind of social game. And we wanted to do a similar game, but with our own twist. So that's when we came up with the idea of a quiz game like that.
2 weeks after release, the app was already the most popular download in Sweden. The tiny startup is meanwhile a mid-sized company with about 50 staff from across Europe. A staff member from Russia designs new graphic elements that can be used to create online identities. The game has been released in 13 countries. Every day they add hundreds of new trivia questions. They all have to be translated and adapted for each country. That can be tricky.
We had an example in Germany. What is Trocadero? And this is a question that had been transferred from the Swedish database. And the person who translated it probably thought that, yeah, it's fine, it will work in Germany also. But the correct answer was a soft drink, and that soft drink had apparently never been launched in Germany, so no one knew what it was. So everyone guessed that it was a tropical island.
Quiz games have been popular for years. The Trivial Pursuit board game was first launched in Canada in the 1980s and went on to sell more than 90 million times around the world. In the digital age, many trivia games have gone online. There are more than 2,000 available in app stores. But Quiz Duel has by far the most fans. It's been downloaded about 23 million times around the world. Its biggest fan base is in Germany, where it's been downloaded 14 million times.
I think there's something very German about wanting to test your mettle in games like this. In Quiz Duel, you have to rely on your knowledge and skill. That gets you social status here. Germans like to be knowledgeable, and they like to demonstrate that. So trivia games like this are perfect for us.
Back in the Hamburg ad agency, the Germany-wide duel has gone to the next round. By the end of March, the smartest ad agency will be crowned. And soon there will even be a quiz duel on German television, with competitors in the studio taking on viewers at home.
Well, they say that anything is possible when it comes to art, or at least almost anything. And when an artist's idea is for some reason bigger than the studio space that he has to work with, well, that is where Sculpture Berlin comes into play. Their oversized workshop is renowned for taking on these massive kinds of tasks, and the three owners have already saved the day for a number of projects. Here's more.
A sculpture nearing completion. The employees of Sculpture Berlin have worked on this monumental artwork made of styrofoam and plastic for the past 7 months. Today, it's getting the finishing touches. Christian Meyer is one of the owners of the Berlin studio. It specializes in turning artists' ideas into three-dimensional reality.
For centuries, companies have simply turned artists' visions into reality. The exciting thing for us has always been the challenge of bringing about a work of art. And this size is a very special challenge, because the whole thing is just huge.
The sculpture is 8 meters long and just under 6 meters high. To start with, there was just a miniature model, designed by the German artist Raimund Kummer. Sculpture Berlin made a 3D scan of it and then implemented it on a scale of 10:1.
The advantage is that I don't have to permanently hire 10 to 15 people. So when the piece is being worked on, I can turn my attention to other projects.
Christian Meyer and his two colleagues, Quirin Bäumler and Dominik Bednarek, founded Sculpture Berlin in 2006. All three studied sculpture, but now they see themselves as service providers who can advise other artists on which techniques and materials to select.
Often you have to figure out what is doable. It's not always possible to give artists everything they want. There's a process of convergence in which you look for a solution that comes as close as possible to the artist's idea.
Somehow the works that are exhibited are also our works. But for us, it's enough to know that we did it. Our name doesn't have to be on it.
It's a great challenge. We encounter artistic projects. Our task is very rich in content. And it's just nice to be a part of it.
Sculpture Berlin has already built several hundred works, including creations by internationally renowned artists such as the German Andreas Hofer, Nathalie Dürberg from Sweden, and Icelandic singer and artist Björk. Katharina Grosse is a regular customer. She's one of Germany's most renowned painters. But when she wants to express herself through sculpture, she relies on advice from Sculpture Berlin.
This is where Sculpture Berlin have the advantage, because they studied art themselves and know the problems you face. When you don't know 100% how it should look, but you have a very good idea of the methods that should be used to make it.
Raimund Kummer's sculpture has already been through this process. It now faces a journey of 600 kilometers from Berlin to the city of Kleve on the Dutch border.
It'll take a couple of days to set it up. The base has to be completed. We have to put down gravel underneath. And then the artwork will be finished.
It's the same for many other artists. They lack the space and expertise to produce such large-scale works in their own studios. The three experts from Sculpture Berlin can help them and are there to celebrate when the artwork is finished.
I don't feel I can breathe easily until the sculpture is gone, but it's a good feeling that it's finally on the truck now.
It won't be long before the three are back at work again. Their next assignment is another giant sculpture.
And now for a breath of fresh air, we're headed to the region around the Chartreuse Mountains in southeastern France. That's the home of the famous liqueur of the same name. And not that far from Grenoble, Cham-Chaude is that area's highest summit. Well, tourism, agriculture and forestry are vital industries here, making it a terrific place for an outdoor holiday at just about any time of year. And it also has the added bonus of French country cuisine wherever you go.
Rising more than 2,000 meters above sea level, the Cham-Chaude is the highest peak in the Chartreuse range. Visitors come from all over the world to enjoy the beauty of the region. Many stay at Bruno Charles's converted barn. The village of Le Sapy-en-Chartreuse has a cultural trail that begins at the 900-year-old church.
In this mountainous region, perhaps the remnants of the past are easier to see because mountain people don't move around as much. They stay attached to their identity and traditions, and they like to share them with visitors.
Winter sports enthusiasts seeking a less strenuous holiday prefer the Chartreuse to even the Alps. And visitors to the national park can get an authentic taste of French country life. This cultural trail leads curious visitors through the countryside into the past. This grain depot is more than 500 years old.
The construction is quite special. It's completely made of wood with interlocking pieces of timber, like this. This sort of construction is quite typical for this region and alpine valleys.
The regional government has implemented strict nature protection laws to make tourism as sustainable as possible while maintaining the area's natural beauty.
The mountains here are more gentle than the Central Alps or the Mont Blanc region. You can see it in the colors, the shapes, and the lines. I love living in Chartreuse because I was born here. All my family and my ancestors were here before me.
The most famous cultural heritage site in Chartreuse is well hidden in its mountains, the head monastery of the Carthusian order, founded in 1084. About 50,000 visitors are drawn here every year, but none are permitted to actually visit the monastery. The monks prefer that their contemplation remain undisturbed. Instead, a nearby museum tells their story.
The order has always been very limited in size, but its philosophical and spiritual importance for Christianity as a whole has been enormous. Throughout its history, many famous people, such as Jean-Jacques Rousseau, have come to seek inspiration from the everyday lives and the spirituality of the people here. And today, many people still come to find out more about what goes on behind these walls.
The monastery walls hold many secrets, such as the 300-year-old recipe for this green liqueur. Chartreuse also lends its name to the mixture of 130 herbs, plants and flowers that go into the drink. The distillery in nearby Voiron is open to the public.
sont vraiment des liqueurs très complexes.
It really is a very complex liqueur. It's currently quite fashionable with barmen and cocktail mixers. They know lots of ways to use it. They add other liqueurs or fruit juices, and they make marvelous cocktails.
Merveilleux cocktail.
At the end of each tour, visitors can taste a sample. After all, it's often said that chartreuse has medicinal properties.
Well, last week in Frankfurt, the International Music Fair opened its doors, and we took that as our cue to train the spotlight on a German piano manufacturer. Bechstein pianos have been around since the year 1853, and the company, based right here in Berlin, but also in rural Saxony, is Europe's largest producer of uprights and grand pianos. Well, they also export them all over the globe, and so we went to see how they resonate internationally.
At one time, Bechstein was among the world's leading instrument manufacturers, but then it lost much of its shine. In the past few years, though, Bechstein regained some of its former prestige. Georgian pianist Dudana Masmanishvili is paying a visit to the Bechstein Center in Berlin. She had her debut at New York City's Carnegie Hall in 2006. She's been a fan of Bechstein grand pianos since her student days.
It's the sound. It's the bel canto sound, which you rarely hear anymore. I've played many Bechsteins, and always for the same reason. First and foremost, a piano has to sing. It can't be a percussion instrument, it has to be an instrument that sings.
Pianist and composer Franz Liszt played on instruments by Bechstein in the 19th century. This one was delivered to him in 1862.
100 years ago, Bechstein was selling about 5,000 instruments a year. Today, it's about the same number. There were slumps and high points in between.
Carl Bechstein founded the company in Berlin in 1853. Bechstein had its headquarters and workshops in Berlin. Later, they also opened a production site in London. The instrument soon gained an international reputation. Now Bechstein has its headquarters in the Stilwerk Design and Office Center in Berlin. But both the upright and the grand pianos are built in the small town of Seifhennersdorf in the eastern state of Saxony. A grand piano takes a full year and about 500 hours to make. The heart of the instrument is the soundboard. It occupies the space in the middle of the grand piano and amplifies the vibrations of the strings.
This is where we dry the soundboards of all the Bechstein concert pianos. We use only Italian spruce wood because it's the best wood for our concert pianos.
During the manufacturing process, each piano is given a thorough going over by a machine that plays up to 50,000 keystrokes in 20 minutes. The final touches are provided by master craftsman Matthias Klingsing.
Part of my job is adjusting the hammers, and I was just doing that. If I had to try to express it in numbers, I'd say that determines about 40% of the sound of a grand piano.
French music professor Anne Condamine has come to purchase instruments for her conservatory. She says she's very impressed.
It's a question of the balance between the sound and the keys. And these create the best equilibrium between the quality of the sound and the quality of the key action.
A Bechstein Grand once had the same reputation as a Stradivari violin. Here in Berlin, they're hoping to regain that lofty praise from pianists around the world.
Well, that is all we have time for this time. So thanks for watching, and until we meet again, alles Gute aus Berlin. Take good care und auf Wiedersehen. Tschüss.